I was learning how to write. I was learning the craft.
Well, shit, a lot of these stories would make really good, books.
I actually started with poetry as a kid because I like the rhyming stuff. So I used to write poems and stuff as a kid.
Where I cut my teeth and learned a lot was from reading a bunch of the screenwriting books and then writing a bunch of crappy screenplays.
Ever since I can remember writing, I started writing stories.
I think writing becomes like a drug. Like once you start, it's really hard to actually stop yourself.
Instead of going out with your friends, you're inside chasing the dragon of having breakthroughs with stories and characters and finding those perfect lines.
Use the rhythm of the story to, control how the audience sees the story.
And if you just read the words on the page, you're not engaging in it.
You can tell more of a story with a facial expression than you can from a huge word balloon taking up half the camera.
Sometimes as a writer, you wonder what the hell you're doing.
If you ever think that, am I just making, in the Kantian sense, am I just making this up? Am I really alive? Am I really experiencing? Am I just an illusion?
The problem with fiction is reality.
You do not want your reader to feel let down.
I can do this. I think I can do this, but I want to do this.
Like when you give somebody a piece of poetry, and it can be someone who hates poetry, and then they read it, and you see that light hit, and you go, oh, I did it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Writing Prose. I'm your host, Shae the Red, and I have a super fucking amazing panel today. Apparently the trick is to harass them each individually in DMs and then send them all the link, and then everybody shows up and it's amazing. So real quick before we get started on our topic, I'm going to go around and let everybody kind of say hey. So first off, we got Narwhal. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me, Shae. My books are Earthbound and Foreign Agent, so everyone knows.
Yes. And I've got links to Foreign Agent, Earthbound. Do you have the second campaign up yet?
No, that'll be this fall.
Okay. So if you still want to get in on Foreign Agent, the link is in the description. So you absolutely can do that. And then obviously when Earthbound 2 launches, I'm going to harass Narwhal and we'll bribe his roommate for good internet if we have to again and get him back on.
Mm-hmm. I like the admission of harassment. I really do.
No, we legit, seriously.
What keeps it going? You at least admit. Thanks for harassing me on. I'm really excited to be back on. It's been too long, and I miss this. So, and all these awesome people in here with me. Like this is where it's at right now. Thank you. I'm Vaughn. I make Monster MD.
You also write Lady Alchemy.
I write Lady Alchemy, which is just a killer book. That is a killer book.
So excited for that book.
Yeah, man, I think more people are going to get on board when they see what we have in store, man. It's something else. I love that book.
Yeah, well, and Martina's a trip, so it's
she's an awesome artist. So like working with her, it's like, was I going to be able to work with her or not? And like, bam, like we made magic. It was magical. It was fun. And then I got to work with Rob Muerto and do a 10-pager for his awesome book, Tales from the Classroom, recently.
Oh, fuck yes.
You and I are polishing that up. So
that was a really interesting book. That was I didn't expect it to be like super amazing. I thought it was going to be entertaining, but I didn't think that it was going to be something that I would like really, really loved. And then I read it and was like, holy fuck, I can't wait for the next one. Like I'm actually really excited about this book. So
I love that guy. I love his book. It's heartfelt and it's got the monstery, cartoony thing. Like he and I are like, it's like my kind of book, that's what I'm making with Monster MD in a lot of ways. But we have different styles. His is a little more kid friendly. Mine's a little bit more like gore and boobs when I want them, and like whatever I want to put in, whatever I want to see in a comic is kind of how I do that. But
you do a lot of nudity, but unfortunately it's Heidi, so you don't really see much.
Yeah, it's kind of like the joke's on the reader, man. That's part of the fun.
Below Vaughn, we have Luke. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. I actually got a little bit of a nap before this, so I'm ready to go. Yeah, as you can see, I have
a Vaseline lens. Like it's it's killing me. There we go. It's a little bit better. Oh my gosh. And Luke is working on a couple different projects to be determined. So stay tuned.
I got a bunch of silly shit around up here right now. I'm just making noise on the internet, singing some heavy metal, doing my vocal practice. Feel free to swing by the sing along of Doom and sing with me.
Absolutely.
Oh my
I
God.
like to go hang out and listen to him screamo music and then like afterwards or something.
I had some requests last night.
Man. I want karaoke with you. Big time.
Yes.
Oh yeah, sing along of Doom, buddy. That's what I call it.
We got, you know what? We got to get. We have Dark Gift, who just showed up in the chat, and he does his like talent sing along stuff. We got to like get him in on on the death metal sing along.
Absolutely,
that'd be hilarious.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
All right. So in the lower middle, we have Mr. Chubb, and I am so excited that we got you on, dude.
Oh, thanks for having me. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Chubb, also known as Carl, but there's only room for one Carl in Comicsgate, so I had to change my name to Chubb.
I wondered why you changed it. I was like, what was your name? I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. It's good you changed it.
Yeah, just
The only reason I remembered your name because it was Carl. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I remembered it. And then
Carl
you changed it to Chubb, and I got so confused for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chubb is an old nickname, so it's fine. It isn't really a change or anything like that. It's just people get it confused. We're from the same parts of the globe, more or less. Yeah, you know. We're practically twins, you know. We both do comic books. It's easy to back that up.
You guys will have to do battle for the right to the ultimate moniker.
I kind of like Chubb.
The name Carl.
I just want to know how you got the name, though.
Chubb. I was just a fat kid. It was not. It's got nothing to do with dicks. It's got something to do with dicks now. You know, it's grown into something about dicks. It was just my luck. But when people were calling me, it didn't have anything to do with dicks. It was just because I was a fat kid.
Oh,
dude, you can so easily trick people and be like, "My dick's big, man." What?
Right.
Like, you don't have to tell people you're a fat kid.
Because I walk around with a half chub all the time.
Yeah, got a fatty ready to roll. What do you want?
Change it to Perma Chubb.
Oh my god! And so Chubb is the writer for Mary Boys.
I remember that name.
Mary Boys. I was one that I expected to be entertaining, but I also was, because it seems like it's going to be like horribly offensive in certain areas, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna read it, and I'm gonna read it as something that's entertaining. And holy shit, that was so much fun! I fucking love that book, and it was.
Wait to get mine,
dude. It was amazing.
It's a killer book.
Like
it's like it's like watching a young Eric Powell like birth before my eyes, like in Comicsgate, and it makes me so freaking happy, dude. Thank you for making this badass book.
All right, and then just below me we have Will. How are you, sir?
I am okay.
Oh.
Wah wah.
This whole time though, I was hoping that since there's 4 people preceding me with their introductions, I could come up with a clever insult towards Shae, but I couldn't. So I'll just simply say I'm sick of you already.
Man, that was like the most like half-hearted, limp attempt at an insult I've ever heard.
I know. I was sitting here, and while you guys were talking, I wasn't even listening. I was like, what can I say to Shae? God, look, I just can't really come up with anything, so screw it. I just go to my default. I'm just sick of you.
Yeah.
Sick of your face.
I like how he's sick of me. He still shows up to my show on my channel.
Yeah. We often return.
How'd that work?
I almost said something, but no. I was like, I mean, that's a good one, but no, that's actually too mean.
So you're looking to get kicked early, are you? Okay.
I almost let my mouth run for me, and I went, "Well,
like damned if he does."
It's like you like Shae a little bit, you know. Don't come back with that one.
Oh, you tolerate her, do you? Good job. It's very nice of you.
Gotta find that balance. Yeah.
There's very, very tricky balance with me. There's a thin line between super awesome and want to hit her with a truck. So you know.
Well, it's more like just want to spray with Raid.
Wow.
Or like
Jesus.
hit you with like a
All right, he's warming up.
semi-rotten vegetable. That's what I want.
Yeah, see, now I got everybody in on it with me to kind of give me inspiration. You know, what did I say the other day? I think in text I said sometimes you make me want to plant you underneath a lettuce patch. That's what I said the other day in text.
Yeah. You said a lot of hurtful things.
Yeah, it's my job. It's to keep you humble.
See, this is what happens. Sai disappears for a few months, and somebody else goes, "This bitch, man." And the next thing I know, I have somebody else giving me shit.
Yes, I'll come back and say, "Who's been keeping the upkeep, man?"
I know. I was gonna come back and it would be like, I'm already beaten into submission, and be like, "Oh, who is that?" Well, I need to go shake his hand. Like,
exactly.
Thanks.
And then we'll do it together.
Yeah, and then I will. I'll just start leaving my own streams.
And by the way, I do something on Black Flag. So
yeah, just kind of the co-writer, whatever. MVD.
Resident Loudmouth.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I like this.
I'm the traffic cop.
Oh my gosh. So right out the gate, so we're talking influences today, and right out the gate, Legkick already has a question for us. Wants to know what writers do we all follow? Have you figured out what writing skills you want to emulate off of those specific writers?
Yeah, man. I don't really follow a lot of writers these days. I just look back to the old ones.
Yeah.
I follow them in terms of buying like screenplays of theirs or looking them up. But like, I like people like David Webb Peoples, like screenwriters like him who did Blade Runner and did Unforgiven and did like Blood of Heroes and like Lady Hawk and like stuff like that. That was kind of like awesome movies, but like they were really masculine, but they were fantastic, but they had like a romance to them. So that influence, that usage in all of his films where there was like just like badass explorations into the dark side of being human and a good guy on the edge of going bad, and then somehow working in like kind of a romance, a little bit of like feminine charm. I just thought was so great, and I've like always wanted to incorporate that into my work ever since I understood that about him as a writer.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Anyone else?
For me, it's maybe like kind of early on, Brian K. Vaughan. I got really into him and got really inspired to kind of mind blowing. I'm like, oh, this is kind of what I want to do. But then I wanted to add to that. That's kind of funny about influences. I reread, so I loved Why the Last Man and read all of it. And then I reread a little bit of it like a few months ago. And I kind of didn't like it as much. I was wondering, like, I guess what we like kind of will evolve and change. You can almost go through like eras of what you like. And that might affect the kind of art you're even making, you know, and I'd be worried that a later era might be worse than an earlier era. Like, even though I'm getting better at drawing, I might be in like a funk for writing, and some of that's based on influence. So I'm trying to make sure I'm always watching cool movies and reading cool books and stuff and staying on top of that. But it was funny, like the Brian K. Vaughan, like overly clever dialogue kind of was like making me roll my eyes a little bit.
Yeah, it's because everybody was doing it at that point, man. Everybody wanted to be fucking Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
If we could like act like Whedonisms out of like TV and movies for like the next fucking decade, that'd be great.
Yeah. I started with Monster MD. I was like, when I first wrote the first drafts back in 13, 14, I was like Whedoning it up. Like I could feel the Whedon like creeping in, and I was like, I need to go back and fix this, man. This needs to be me. This needs to be new. This needs to be more punk. You know, I don't need to impress Hollywood people.
Right.
Like, I need to tell my stories. Just, entertain you.
Exactly. What about you, Chubb?
Yeah, I was trying to think specifically, like who do I don't really follow. Like, it fit to purpose, really. I mean, I could tell you what would probably inspire the Mary Boys. I would think that the Don Camillo books by Giovanni Guareschi. I don't know if anybody's familiar with them, but they are about this crazy old priest who lives close. He used to live on the banks of the River Po in Italy. during just after the Second World War, and he had these run-ins with us. It was during the time where there was a lot of clashes between ideologies, Catholicism versus communism. So he had run-ins with the mayor, who was this classic sort of communist figure. It's hilarious little stories, and it kind of like some of my characters influence. I just love the way those two characters seem to play off each other. I kind of like that, but I mean, for as far as comics are concerned, I've always read the typical stuff like Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, etc. And I don't know. I kind of follow that. I try for the longer form stories. I try and follow their sort of their lead on stuff. I guess I just sound like a lot of garble.
Yeah.
I love you, kitty.
Yep, this is Violet. Hi, sweetie.
Oh, that was just adorable. Sorry.
Yeah. As far as influences go, I'm with Chubb. I've got a lot of varying influences. One of the biggest is probably I don't know, Stephen King, just because I've read a lot of his stuff. The Dark Tower series, just the way he constructed all of that. I love the way he pulls all of his different stuff, and it's all the Dark Tower, every bit of it, you know. And just the way he can characterize, you know, a time period I've never been to. Like Hearts in Atlantis is one of my favorites of his, just because it paints such a clear picture in the different stories of the time period that they're from, you know.
Yeah. For that one, I've only read the first book, I think, and it was so awesome. I guess that's when he wrote when he was like 18 years old or something, and I think he redrafted it like 10 years later and made it really good. But it had that like youthful energy of like don't give a fuck kind of like to it. Like even like he plays around with like what he even feels like explaining. Like a lot of the magic is like, you know, like if you sleep next to like the bone of a cow, then you aren't going to get taken over in your dreams or something like that. And I was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah, the Gunslinger is a great book. It can be a little slow to start out with, but once it gets rolling, it's great. It's like Lord of the Rings
brutal.
meets The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, I honestly though it's brutal as fuck. The like the way that everything goes, the way that everything like progresses. I won't say anything more, but I definitely had a moment where I read and then I legit felt like I was gonna cry, and then I put it down and I refused to finish reading it for like 3 weeks because I was so mad at what they did to Roland. I was so pissed. I was like, no, fuck you touching it. And then when I read it again, it won't have happened and it'll be fine. And then I read it again and I was like, damn it, it still happened. Like it was very well done though. It was very impactful writing.
Yeah. But you know, well,
Stephen King's interesting. I've read a lot of his stuff. It's like I like him but I don't know if he influences me. You know what I mean? It's like I think Cycle of the Werewolf, the fact that he put in such great illustrations in that story, I think that influenced me more. But that's part of my comic.
Bernie Wrightson.
It's Bernie Wrightson. Yeah,
Bernie. I love that. The Vela is great.
Gorgeous art. Absolutely gorgeous art in that. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was thinking about influences and what they are, and about how they're not always people. Like
true. Very true.
Or they're people that you don't expect to hear about. But like, if I had to boil it down to really broad influences, I would say I'm influenced by rock and roll and my mom. Like, those are the two things that like raised me to be what I've become, and had like a profound influence on me in general. So, but when it comes to like comics and art, like I can break it down, like get smaller and like, okay, this guy, like I definitely see this guy in my work. Definitely see that in my work, you know, but in the end, I am a child of the 80s. I grew up when movies were imaginative and hard won to look good and be awesome. And they did a good job. Like almost everything you went to see was awesome. Special effects blew up, technology blew up, music blew up, synthesizers, all the good shit. And like, that's what I'm a product of. You know what I mean? So
a very creative time in, you know, entertainment.
Yeah. I don't get why the 80s sometimes get a bad rap. Like they say for cinema, they say the 70s was the best and they say the 80s sucked. And I'm like, I disagree very strongly. I love the 80s. The 80s had like,
my film teacher actually said that to the whole class. She said the 80s was one of the most dismal times for film. And I was like, you freaking leftist activists just trying to tell us what the thing. Like they
trying to be edgy.
She's
trying to be edgy with her left-wing commentary. I'm like, really?
They didn't like that artful stuff became commercial a little bit more in the 80s. You know?
Yeah. It's like less artsy fartsy, but it's still, they were perfecting everything and they got it really good. Like Back to the Future, I've said this before, but I think Back to the Future is like the single most perfect movie script ever written, and that's the 80s. Like everything after that is when like postmodern stuff kind of becomes more and more popular because they'd already perfected it. So that's kind of when you reach out to that kind of stuff. But,
I think the 70s were better for horror. Like the mid 70s into the early 80s were better for horror, but I think sci-fi movies were better in the late 70s into the 80s. If that makes sense.
If you're going to talk horror specifically, I think one of the big problems is in the 70s, a lot of stuff that was being done in horror was new, and in the 80s it was old hat and overdone. And so it's really hard to compare.
Hackneyed by then.
Right, exactly. And so you had various like monster flicks, slasher flicks, things like that. That was all new and innovative in the 70s, and that was being pioneered in the 70s. And then in the 80s, it was, well, this is just a bad retelling of a 70s story. And it was like,
hold up. Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, I'm not talking all of them. What I'm saying is
Friday the 13th.
That's the early 80s though.
Icons.
Late 70s into early 80s.
Yeah.
The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. Still one of the best fucking
80s.
horror movies ever.
yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I was gonna say some of them are in between. Like Aliens 1979, so you could almost count it as an 80s movie, but I guess it counts as 70s, of course. But it's like
But then Aliens.
I feel like the last decade kind of bleeds into the next one for at least the first 4 years of that decade.
Yeah.
Like look at styles of clothing.
Oh, yeah.
Look at
yeah. Oh yeah.
So it takes like at least 4 years for the decade.
When it developed as its own style, you know. It was
straight up neon and a lot of clashing patterns.
Punk, and then punk blew up, and then goth, and then like all this cool music and art sprung from it that was underground that we don't associate with it enough, but we should because it's part of why it's so awesome.
Gee, I wonder what Vaughn's favorite time period was.
Yeah. I'm a product of it, like I said.
By the way, baller shirt, dude. Fucking Death Club.
Oh my god.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, love that. That's a apocalypse.
You guys kill me. Okay. All right. Will is going to talk now. Sorry. What would you say is kind of your influence?
It's actually quite boring by comparison. The only thing I can think of right now, a couple things that really had an effect on me. The first of which was Thucydides, the history of the Peloponnesian War. And anyone who's familiar with these streams knows that I harp on world building a lot. And the reason I liked Thucydides a lot as opposed to something like Herodotus, which is like kind of one of the first ethnographies, like a series of anecdotes, is that there's an attempt to explain what's going on. You know, as a philosophy of history, even though the Greeks didn't have history, but they were trying to. Thucydides himself was trying to say, what about our bad behavior, call it that, you know, is creating this situation for the Greeks. And I like that because it's sort of like writing a world for comics. There's a causality involved. And the other thing that I was obsessed with for a while was Plutarch, which was famous lives of Greeks and Romans, where he would do a biography of 12 Greeks, and then he would pair them with Romans, and then he would compare them. And to me, that was fascinating. And then most recently, in terms of writing style, the guy who really hit me and stuck with me for a long time, because I was trained in the academic world, was Edward Gibbon with Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Like, I really just loved the way he constructed paragraphs. They were so carefully constructed, and his word choice was so deliberate that it was very clean, and it gave you an idea that if you're going to write history, for example, it doesn't have to be dry. It can be prose. It can be a story. You know,
be entertaining.
Right. It doesn't have to be academic, so to speak.
Yeah, totally.
So that was important because now that when I went to write something, anything, even if it was for college, I would give it a bit of a narrative flavor to it. And those are
razzle dazzle.
Yeah, those are the three authors I can really kind of think of at the moment that were big, that just figure big into my mind.
Interesting. Okay.
Have since this is, I know I brought this up before, but have you guys read On Writing by Stephen King? Like,
No.
when I say Stephen King influences me writing wise, that's one of the things, because I read that over and over again, because he does just what Will says. He's talking about the craft of writing, but he does it via narrative. He tells different stories, vignettes from his life, and he says he uses those to get his point across about writing. You know what I mean? So that's part of the influence of Stephen King, but The Dark Tower mostly from him.
but mostly The Dark Tower.
Somebody fell.
Vaughn.
Did you kick him on accident? Okay. Yeah, I've read that, Luke, though. I like that book a lot. Yeah.
The On Writing, yeah. It's what I read every couple of years just to refresh my mind, because there's a lot of like basic toolkit stuff that he has in there that's really good, if you get stuck on things.
Yeah.
Like an example, just to again give you an example of what I mean. Like in the first 2 or 3 lines of his book, for example, this is sort of a small sample. He says, in the 2nd century of the Christian era, the Empire of Rome comprehended the fairest part of the earth and the most civilized portion of mankind. The frontiers of that extensive monarchy were guarded by ancient renown and disciplined valor. Like that, ancient renown and disciplined valor, that says so much in just 2 words, right? It's ancient renown. These are people that are well known by their conquests and their glory, and disciplined valor. Like the way he constructs those sentences. Like you don't need to say much more, right? And that's what I mean by how careful he is with his word choice to put what's needed in there, but it's very beautiful and elegant and clean. So that's what I was kind of talking about. How he influenced me was to just not try to be verbose, but careful with your word choice.
Yeah, that's totally fair. If I'm going to go into kind of loosely what inspires me and what influences me, the thing that first got me interested in writing was reading a lot of poetry. And the big influence there was Edgar Allan Poe, because he had a way of saying a lot without saying a ton. The way that he described things, it really painted a picture. He has his poem called The Bells, which a lot of people don't really focus on as much when they're focusing on Poe. And if you read that, you slowly watch someone's like descent into madness. Welcome back, Vaughn.
Welcome back.
Oh, hey, what's on?
It's like musical chairs.
I'm sorry.
Vaughn, now you're on
He
the
was
end.
backstage with music.
Yeah.
I'm out from under Shae.
Hi. Yeah. I'm under the shade. Now we can. I can up. You can down.
Did you turn the light on in your room?
Bounce, baby. That's awesome.
Sorry, what were you saying, Carwell, before we got super distracted?
Sorry.
Doesn't matter.
Sips tea.
But yeah, so Poe was a big influence for me, mostly because in the poem The Bells, he says the bells over and over and over and over and over and over again. But as it starts, he's kind of taking you through best case scenario of what bells can mean, all the way down to hearing the death bells of somebody who has died, passed on, and all that. And it becomes sad, it becomes dismal, it becomes heavy and dramatic. And if you look at how much has changed from stanza to stanza, it's very little. Because it's a repeat of the bells, 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 like over and over and over and over again. But everything that comes from the beginning part of it is what sets up how that ends up feeling for you. And so I thought that was really interesting. I really enjoyed that. And then when it comes to comics, Jeff Johns, because he's a phenomenal.
Write an entertaining yarn. I mean, like I generally don't give a shit about the DC universe. I've been a Marvel zombie my entire life, but I'll read some Jeff Johns. All right.
He's good.
Yeah.
He's the one that got me into comics, reading his Flash Rebirth, because it was the first time that I realized, and I say this all the time, but I don't care, it's my show. It's the first time that I realized that comics can be more than just straight action or straight horror or straight romance. Like it can be a complex world where you have mystery and intrigue and romance that isn't hokey. Because I hate rom-coms with a fucking passion. Every time I see that shit and you see like the, oh, I can't be with you, oh, but I love you, and oh, I'm gonna chase after you at the very end. Like, exactly, every time. The things that I find to be wonderful love stories are shit like John Wick. Like, it's not it's not a love story, but it is, because you see how devoted he is to everything, and like he was so hard trying to keep his life together, and then somebody came in and ripped it from him, and he was like, all right, motherfuckers, like,
all Keanu stories have a body count.
Yeah.
How you like
all
it.
Keanu movies are love stories between me, the audience, and him.
Yes, I agree. I love Keanu with a passion. I don't give a fuck what anybody else says. I think he's a phenomenal actor.
He's gotten better over the years. Like he devoted himself to his craft. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that kind of seeing where, you know, like Jeff Johns takes a lot of his writing and how it isn't always it's not just one-sided, it's not linear, it's not kind of boring. It's a full, robust kind of world. And that really kind of made me want to look into. So I've been writing, I've been doing poetry, I've been doing short stories, and never thought that they were ever going to go anywhere. But after kind of seeing how you can blend a really good narrative and a really good like novella, short story, poetry kind of aspect with the visual medium of comics, it turned into this, oh, I could actually make this something really fucking cool if I did it right. And it turned into, that's now what I'm focusing on. That's something that I really want to do.
Oh yeah. So he not only influenced you to write, not just influence the way you write.
Yeah, no, I went from a really long drought. I used to write a lot when I was in school. And I wrote for fun. I didn't write because the teachers made me. Like when the teachers made me, I would spend an hour on a paper and bullshit my way through a novel that I hadn't read. Because literally, and I don't know what it was with my school, they didn't know how to talk like one grade to the next. So I ended up having to write reports on The Great Gatsby for 4 years straight. And I was like, I fucking hate the book. I hate the movie.
Do it in your sleep though, by the end.
I hate everything about it. I read maybe a third of what I needed to. I had a teacher who made us, in order for us to get full credit, you had to do the Charleston twice in class. Or she would dock you points and you would not get full credit. Right. She showed up. So it's a teacher that should never wear a flapper dress that showed up in a flapper dress and was like, we're doing the Charleston. And I was like, holy fuck.
I'll inspire those kids yet with the Charleston. What the fuck?
Did not work.
So
and then
we tell her that the kids aren't doing the Charleston these days? Like, what the hell?
No, so it'll break her heart. Total aside. She legit was like, she was like, okay, girls, find a guy. And me and my girlfriend looked at each other and I was like, sure. You just wanted like this because I'm not Charlestoning with these ones over here. This is not happening. So we just turned to each other and we started doing the show. She's like, okay, but girls, like maybe pick a boy. And I was like, oh no, this is what I prefer. Because it was Utah. It was Utah in like the late 90s, early 2000s. So it turned into I don't really know how to handle that, so I'm just going to turn away. And
what do the boys do?
That's what you just said. And I was like, yep, thanks. And so we're sitting there like twisted and everything. And then she's like, that's not the Charleston. I was like, I know, the Charleston is stupid.
Oh,
that's why it died.
Really difficult. Did she have a stroke then or later?
She
right then, just on the floor.
She looked at me and said, ma'am, either you do the Charleston or I'm going to dock you points. And I was like,
oh, Jesus.
fully certain that this is not within the curriculum that you can dock me points for, but I'm going to do the damn Charleston because you're pissing me off. So we did the
Charleston.
It was, and I saw the movie, that really, really horrendous movie. I want to say like 5 or 6 times because she made us watch it 3 times in her class alone.
For fuck's sake!
Like my whole school year.
Did she want to live in the Great Gatsby?
Yeah.
Like, okay,
she wanted to be in the 20s. She felt like she was a flapper that was born in the wrong era. Anyone who saw her,
so she was a hoe.
That's called a whore.
She's making up for all the
born in the wrong era is called a whore.
And that would be a hoe. So she's a hoe.
You know
she
when
wanted to
women
be a
hit that.
classier hoe.
You know when the women hit that certain age, they start collecting cats.
Oh God!
Excuse me, she was a lush or a loose woman.
Okay, so is she one of your influences, or should we like?
No, she almost.
I suppose. Well, she influenced you to do the Charleston. I'll tell you that. All right.
Yeah, this is mostly because if I kicked high enough, I had a chance to kick her, and I could just be like, "I'm sorry, I have." Charleston-ing."
You know what the real question is?
Musical influences, dude.
The real question is, can you still do the Charleston?
There's no. Yeah.
It's a step kick, step back. That's all it is. It's not hard.
Can you do the Macarena?
She could really do it.
Took it seriously.
God. Well, so I started kicking.
Don't ask her
that little kick forward. That started getting higher and higher when she'd get closer to me. just in case. You never know.
Oh my God.
I was a very, very good student, if you couldn't tell. I took it very seriously.
I wasn't. I'm a USD. I'm surprised I can spell Gatsby.
Karaoke with Death Metal Hero and dancing with Shae. This is all gonna happen at the Comic Skate.
Oh shit!
CG Con is gonna be the most lit thing that has ever happened.
Yeah,
we're all getting drunk, and all of you guys are Zumbaing with me. It's happening.
Zumba? What the fuck's a Zumba?
You don't know what Zumba
is? Is that the thing that cleans your floor automatically?
Right.
That's a Roomba.
Oh, yeah. See, that's what I thought. Oh,
mine's called Darth Roomba.
The one that cats.
He's my droid. He's my little droid. We talk.
Nice.
The ones that cats do drive-bys on.
Exactly. Give him little laser guns.
My cat will not ride it. I tried. My cat does not want to ride a Roomba, guys.
Darth Roomba's going to get called at like a trial. If you ever go to trial, he'll be their witness.
Yeah.
He'll acquit you. He'll be like, I know Vaughn, character witness. This guy.
That one that just went by. That was actually a big influence. Was James Barr's The Crow. That was the first comic I read that said it doesn't have to be superheroes.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's also a very personal story for James. You know?
Eastman and Laird's Ninja Turtles like blew me up as a kid. I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna make comics," and I sat down and made my first comics because of that book. So,
Jim Lee's X-Men #1. I read 1, 2, and 3 over and over and over again, and that got me to go back and check out the Outback version of the X-Men, you know, with like Dazzler, Storm, Psylocke, like, and that crystallized my love for X-Men, you know. But Jim Lee's X-Men made me want to make comics just because that fucking cover and just like the action, like I fucking love that shit.
Yeah, I think
who wrote the Outback stuff? Was that Warren Ellis?
You talking
about Savage Land?
Yeah, no. When they were in the Outback in the 80s, man. The team were brown and gold. You know, you had Longshot on the team. You know, the X-Men were supposed to be dead. I want to say Claremont was still writing them because he didn't take off until
he took off when it was X-Men.
Yeah. He took off after X-Men 1.
I was thinking about this one where they might have been in Africa or so. Or I was like, are they in the Outback though? And I was trying to think if it was like the Warren Ellis one I'd started reading.
Mark Silvestri was doing the art chores on X-Men at that time, and then Art Adams was doing stuff as well. Like there's this, it's number 12, annual 12, and Art Adams did the work for it, and there was like a X-Babies backup story, and it's just like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. And I wanted Art Adams to draw everything.
Yeah, he's amazing. He critiqued my art once.
Oh yeah?
Way back when I met him, and he critiqued my art. It was awesome. I was like, all right.
Hell yeah, man. Nick Bradshaw draws very similar to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question specifically for Chubb, since we have somebody who is not American. And I know, like, Kami Mark was
I'm
talking
not really
about.
British, either.
Kami Mark was talking about some of his influences being like Noel Fielding, which, if you guys don't know who Noel Fielding is, like, do yourselves a favor. You need to go look him up. The Mighty Boosh is probably one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen, and it takes a while. Okay, like the first season, it's okay. I like when they weren't in the zoo, when they were in like the record store. I thought that it was a lot more entertaining. But and then Noel Fielding's whatever his show was after that he had for a while, I can't remember. It's like Noel Fielding's like fantastic. Whatever, something. But
oh yeah, I never.
They're both phenomenal, but they're influences that a lot of Americans are gonna miss out on, and it's like it's the best absurdist comedy. Like Vaughn and Narwhal, I can almost guarantee would love that shit. If you haven't seen it, go look it up because it's ridiculous.
I'll check it out.
It's something that it isn't plot driven. It's kind of feeling driven. I think it's more keen. It's almost like the young ones too. It isn't. If you had to set up the plot for the young ones or for the Mighty Bush, it wouldn't make any sense. You'd be like going, what the fuck is what? But as soon as you start watching it and you start and the color scheme comes out and the language comes out and everything just starts coalescing, it starts making a lot more sense.
You learn the
language. I guess. Yeah, it's almost like a Tank Girl. It's almost like a Tank Girl story. None of it. If you had to set up the plot to that, it makes no sense whatsoever. But as soon as it starts happening, you're like, okay, I can get into that,
and you get into the rhythm of it. Like, is it like Scud, the disposable assassin? Or
right. I haven't actually read Scud. It's on my list of things to find. But apparently, Scud's
it's a good one.
Noel Fielding's luxury comedy, by the way. That's the other one. Thank you, Mark. That is exactly it. It's fucking ridiculous, and it makes no sense. Will, you'll hate it. Don't even bother.
Why would I hate it?
Because you're far too analytical and you're far too rooted in reality to pay attention to something that absolutely off the wall absurd. It's like a fucking acid trip on mushrooms. Like it's taking acid and mushrooms.
I'm a big Jodorowsky fan.
Yeah, it's different. This isn't intellectual absurdist humor. This is just absurd.
Have you seen Holy Mountain? Have you? See, everyone's laughing. They know.
Everyone's telling me. They have to.
But
here it is again.
The thing that I find interesting is because a lot of influences are so regional, and so it's. Like when I lived in England for 4 years, and a lot of the stuff that I saw in England, like the television, the stories, the comics, everything is so very different, despite the fact that, we're like, British, American, like samesies.
No.
It totally different worlds, completely different worlds. Like it comes all the way down to really small things. Like in England, you get taxed if you have anything that can display television, like any TV shows, you get taxed for that. It's a TV tax.
Yeah. TV.
So
that's ridiculous.
My favorite thing was, well, what if I just don't pay it? They find you, and they show up at your door.
They do. Yeah. They claim to have a device whereby they drive up and down your street, and they've got this device that they claim can detect whether you're receiving a television signal or not. It's a lot of bullshit.
It is absolutely
like broadcast TV, like over the air broadcast TV,
like BBC. If you can get any of the BBC channels, and it doesn't matter if you're watching them. It's if you have a device that is capable of displaying BBC, then you owe them a TV tax because at some point in time you're probably watching it. Is how they justify it. You also have doorknobs versus door handles. There's taxes because it's a luxury tax. Same thing with screens on your windows. Like all small little things that in America we're like, well, why wouldn't you have a screen on your window? And in Britain, they're like, because I have to pay more if I do. So I'm not putting a screen on my window. Why would I do that? And it's like,
Jesus, it's like an old clunker car that nickels and dimes you to death.
Yes.
Fuck.
Well, so the house that I stayed in, they tried to get me for a tax on the land, because it was like the land tax for the house that I was renting. They also
the ground rent.
Yeah. So they also sent it. They also sent it to the person who owned the house because I was renting it, but they owned it. And so they were taxing them for owning the land, and they were taxing me for renting something on the land.
So they fucking get paid coming and going. That's
so it was a double tax, and the only benefit that I had was I'm military, and so we had an agreement worked out where it was, so our people are not going to pay your ridiculous land tax because what the fuck? And if there's, as a result, because of things like that, like people in Britain tend to live at home a lot longer than we do in America. You have people in America that are moving out at 17, 18, 19 years old, like, fuck this shit, I'm out. I had friends that were 35 still living with their mom because it's so expensive to try and move out and to try and be in your own spaces.
It fucking sounds like it.
I knew a 35-year-old who didn't have a driver's license because you get a driver's license, you have an automobile, then you have road tax, and you have all of these other like nickel and dime shit everywhere, and people just couldn't afford to. So they were like, screw it, I'll take the train and I'll walk or I'll bike. And these are all things that we don't consider in America. But when you're reading a lot of British writing or comics or things like that, this is everywhere because that's normal. That's what life is actually like. And to us, we're like, oh, transit. Well, and everybody thinks that it's just, well, everything that British people are writing, it's all like nostalgia based, and a lot of it isn't. Like a lot of it is just normal. Yes, and call me Mark, my 35-year-old friend was an absolute loser. 1,000%.
Call it like it is.
He needed to cut those strands, but he wasn't the only one. Like there was a lot of people who didn't have licenses. There was a lot of people who waited a lot longer to move out. Whereas like I have friends that moved out in America at, 14, and shit like that. And like, I moved out of my parents' house and I lived with my friends, or I lived with whatever, lived with like my friends' parents, whatever it was. But that wasn't quite as standard in a lot of the people that I talked to that lived in Britain, at least not in Lincolnshire. Maybe it's just a Lincolnshire thing. That's out in the boonies. Like
I was gonna ask you where you were staying. So you stayed in Lincolnshire the whole time and during the 4 years, or did you move around?
I lived in Dorrington, so I lived a little bit away from Lincolnshire, but that was the next biggest town, I guess. And yeah, I was there for 4 years because I was stationed over at Digby, so. It was living in the farmland. It was like going back in time for a while.
Well, that's nice. At least you didn't get stuck in London. Probably, at least you.
I visited London and I said I'm not going back.
Yeah. It's a total shithole.
If you want a British experience, stay away from London. London is so touristy, and like I think we stood in line for 45 minutes to try and see Parliament, and we moved 4 feet. And we said, fuck this, it's an old building, like it's fine. we said no, we're gonna go get food. And we paid way too much money for bangers and mash that was terrible. And then when we went back to my village, we went to like the local pub and we got the best fucking food I've ever had. It was go out in the countryside. If you want to go and see history and all that kind of stuff in England, don't go hang out in London.
That's very true. Yeah, the best decision. We stayed in London for more than 10 years, and eventually when we got the courage to move out, it was just life changing. It was brilliant, much more.
Yeah,
felt more real.
Bad influence. Are we talking about influence?
Did you live in a Monty Python sketch? Yes, it is a Monty Python sketch.
Under the influence,
it's a real thing.
Under the influence,
it's a real thing.
It is.
You guys also, I don't want to get into like the property situation, but also you can't really own. We got a lot of long leases in the UK. I don't know what you guys have in the US. You probably own your property straight out, but if you have a flat or an apartment, you typically have a long lease of a few hundred years or 120. Typically, it's 125 years. So you never really own it, and you have to pay a level of ground rent to the actual owner. So I'm assuming it's that. There are loads of little hidden rents and charges and payments and things that you can get stuck with if you supposedly own property in this country.
Yeah, supposedly, giant air quotes around that. God damn.
Well, because they're really good at like while you're there and you're alive, you're gonna feel like you own it. But when you try to like bestow it upon people later, they're suddenly gonna be like, "Oh, by the way, this is actually ours." And you're like, "What the fuck? It's been my family for like decades." And it's like, "Yeah, about that. It actually hasn't." And when they bought it, they leased it, and lease is up. So thanks. You're just like, but the fuck, like, all right, cool, whatever.
He's got the Hobbit pipe. This shit's getting real. I like it.
The name of this pipe is actually Strider. This is Strider.
This is the Strider pipe, then, not the Gandalf pipe. Okay, tell us. Strider
That's its name. That's its name,
okay.
Strider. Yeah,
it's badass.
Yeah, I'm okay with Gandalf the Blue. Hell yeah.
Yeah, we could call you that. Okay.
So music. You brought up music earlier, Vaughn.
Yeah.
How does music
David
influence
Bowie. David Bowie and Peter Steele from Typo Negative were like a huge influence on me growing up.
I'm not shocked.
Because they were more than just musicians. They were visual artists. They had vision. They had design ability. They had understanding of how to breed visuals with music in really cool ways. And that to me had a huge impact on me and how I approach things visually. Like everything on Monster MD is like designed the way it is to make you like it for a reason. It's not just me just goofing off. Like these guys influenced, how I present things. So yeah, it's and I just look up to people who are just really cool visual artists that have real vision. Those are always the ones I want to get to know better, and I end up getting influenced by. So those were cool. So I guess I'm just attracted to different artists for different reasons. It's almost like what you can get from them, and you watch movies and you're looking for parts. You're looking for like what you can get. Well, certain artists are always churning out stuff for years and years, and you're always like getting interesting new stuff. And like, that's David Bowie, so yeah.
Yeah. I guess Fear Factory would be that for me. Like their album Obsolete is what was kind of my gateway into heavy metal, like industrial, I guess I should say, because I grew up in a house where, it was Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and, classic rock, Deep Purple, all that shit, but then I discovered like industrial. And I was always told not to sing because my dad was a vocalist, and he did the 80s hair rock thing. Yes. And he was damn good at it. No, he was damn good at it. But I'd try to sing and he'd be like, yeah, don't sing. So I was like, all right. So I was like, all right, fine. I won't sing. I'll groove. And it just got darker and heavier and louder ever since,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's and the visuals. Like I went and saw The Matrix right before I got Obsolete, and it was very similar story arc because machines have taken over, humanity is oppressed, and Edge Crusher is like my favorite fucking song off of that album. It's just anyway, yeah, a whole concept album, and Fear Factory does that. That's what they do. They have concepts. It's all man versus machine. So I mean, I don't understand why they haven't soundtracked a Terminator movie yet, but nobody's asked me. Yeah.
That'd be badass.
Yeah. And then Static X came in and was kind of similar, and then that led me down to more industrial, and it's just like I said, just gotten louder and heavier and angrier ever since.
Well, okay, so who else is really influenced by music? Because I know
definitely.
I'm crazy influenced. All right, go ahead, Chad. Let's hear some of your influences. I'm curious.
Oh well, for punk, it's obviously these guys. I'm a massive.
Yes. Hell yeah.
I mean, so a lot of goth. I'm a pathetic old goth. A lot of industrial. Industrial rhythmic noise sort of stuff. Neo folk, black metal.
Who's your favorite black metal band?
Burzum, definitely Burzum.
Going fucking old school. Goddamn.
This channel's going down. You can't say you like Burzum anymore, unfortunately, but I like Burzum.
You can say you like whatever you want on this channel.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. There's only like a couple of things that are, you know, highly illegal that might get you completely kicked off of the channel. But
such
as things that we're not going to talk about because they're highly illegal.
Oh, because I wanted to transgress them just to get booted off by you.
I can just boot you, Will. Like that's doable.
Whatever I can to annoy you. Of like, I got to know this.
Don't tell him. He doesn't need to know.
Yeah, no, he's not. I'm not telling him.
He doesn't need to know because he will use that against you. Clearly, Will, you overplayed your hand, fool.
He does that.
You know what it is? He's like Charlie Murphy said, habitual line stepper.
He's too cocky. That's the thing. Is he's that comfortable?
Yeah, totally. That habitual line stepper. That should have been your handle on Twitter, buddy.
Agreed.
That's why I get my legs whipped.
What about you, Narwhal? Are you
didn't need to know that.
Sticking all for your writing?
Yeah, not as much as these guys, but like lately or like in the last couple years, I got really into the Silent Hill soundtracks, which is a guy named Akira Yamaoka, and he's kind of like industrial kind of thing, but it's awesome.
Oh yeah.
And I throw that on it. That'll definitely put you in a mood, you know. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's kind of what got me another thing that got me into writing again was listening to I listen to lyrics. So I like music because I like the lyrics behind them. And that can make me like songs that otherwise sound like shit. And songs that sound really, really awesome, if they have complete shit lyrics, it can ruin them for me altogether. Like I've had songs where I was like, I love it, and then I looked at the lyrics and I went, fuck.
the Rolling Stones put out a new album recently, and one of the tracks, because I visited my dad, and he's like, check out this track, it jams or whatever, and it's called Ghost Town, and it's the Rolling Stones going, I'm a ghost living in a ghost town. And it just says those are the only lyrics, and I'm like, dude, that's all they say for 3-4 minutes. This song's stupid.
Yeah.
That's dumb. You're dumb.
That's definitely an old man song to write.
Yeah,
that's an old man song.
Yeah,
my dad in a ghost town. That's their life now.
Yeah, right? My dad's like, it's so relevant because of COVID.
yeah, there we go.
That's awesome.
I feel like your dad and my dad would get along so well. So like I growing up, everyone's listening to New Kids on the Block. Everyone's listening to NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. Like that was kind of my, you know, all the boy band era. And every girl had to listen to that, or you weren't a real girl.
Including you.
What?
Including you.
Yeah, I listened to it.
All right.
I peer pressured myself into it.
No, you
the
loved
stuff
it.
that shut up. I did not. The stuff I listened to before.
Yeah, you did.
I did the Charles Stillwell listening to NSYNC. No, so I grew up a lot of my life clear up until I was probably like 13 or 14. I wasn't listening to these boy bands. I listened to New Kids on the Block because I had a mini cassette tape player, and that was one of the like 3 cassette tapes that I had. But my parents are old school hippies, so every time we were in the car, I listened to Air Supply. I listened to there was some David Bowie. There was a shit ton of Rolling Stones, and just like a lot of really old shit.
What about Billy Joel? That's like a dad guy.
No,
yeah, he is a dad guy.
My dad listened to some Billy Joel, but he didn't. ABBA. That was more my parents' generation. Was ABBA.
Yeah. That was great.
I knew
ABBA's
Dancing
awesome.
Queen like the back of my hand, and I showed it to one of my girlfriends when I was like 14, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, who's this new band?" I was like, "This is ABBA. They're from the 70s." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, what are we listening to?"
ABBA never did anything for me. Like I heard Dancing Queen, I was like, "Oh God, please make it go away."
Yeah.
Just because I heard it ad nauseum, but yeah, no, they never did anything for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Super Trooper. I always thought they meant the other kind of trooper, like you with a gun and coming down from the sky and shooting people. But in fact, it's not about that at all. It really kind of spoiled the song for me when I found that out. But Super Troopers.
Wait, this isn't about stormtroopers?
Yes.
Yeah, so I grew up listening to a lot of shit, but a lot of the older stuff that my parents really enjoyed at least had good stories. And my dad used to get me really into a lot of songs because he would sit there and he would talk about when he was writing this is what was going on in his life, and this is what he was feeling, and this is what he was putting forward, and all of that kind of. And so it became something I tuned into a lot, was trying to really kind of pick up on what people are saying through music. And now the shit that I listen to, so I've got some metal. I've slowed down on a lot of the metal recently, simply because when I like something, I binge it. So I binged metal for like 2.5 years straight, where that was the only thing I listened to. And after a while, my ears needed something else. So I went from metal to K-pop because, something else.
Wow.
And I didn't have to worry about what the story was because I don't speak Korean, so it was fine. But then I ended up finding like NF, and I've always liked Eminem. I'm a total poser, whatever. But listening to rap of like Eminem and NF, the reason I like both of those rappers is because everything that they rap about is really personal, and they tell entire stories through their songs. And so I started making it like a mission to play them ad nauseum until I knew the songs and I could rap along with them, because I liked the story that they were putting out there. And then, now I'm starting to go back and get a little bit more of my metal back in and everything. Like I went to Mayhem Fest 11 years ago, and it was fucking epic. I also had somebody hand me a pamphlet and say I was going to hell because I went to a metal concert. And I handed it back and said, I lead my church's girls group. So I think I'm good.
For that. I could have told you that.
Mine's Frames.
I'm not going to hell because of metal. I'm going to hell for other reasons. But
they're all my own. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I condemn you to hell at least once a week.
Yeah, I know you do.
I just send you, instead of good night or good morning, say I condemn you to hell, and that's what I just write, and then the rest of the day I ignore.
It's like, hey Shae, condemn you to hell, and I'm like, yeah, night. Well, have a good one.
Hey Shae, I just wanted to let you know something sweet and endearing, and you're going to hell.
Yep, it's about right. That's about right. And a lot of the time, it's just
I'm glad you don't wish me good night. That's good.
You know what? Yeah. I think I uncovered why I keep having so many nightmares.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
You're such a cold-hearted bitch. Seriously.
Hey man, if you make 6 figures off your Indiegogo project from the shit I incept you with, and you owe me a cut.
You know what?
I will give you exactly nothing, sir.
You'll cut me. You won't give me a cut. You'll cut me.
I will give you a cut. It just won't be what you think.
With like a bottom bitch with a razor.
Leg kick, King Diamond, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Oh, baby metal. Yes. Baby metal. Okay.
I was waiting for somebody to bring that up.
I did not see that.
With the baby metal.
No.
Baby metal.
The band behind those 3 pretty little girls is fucking legit. Like, dude, those motherfuckers can play. But
it shocks me. These tiny little Korean or Japanese girls that are just look so sweet and endearing and whatever, and like, and they can fucking growl, and it's awesome.
It's adorable.
I didn't know that it existed, but now that I've heard it does exist, it makes perfect sense.
Oh, dude, you got to go check it out. Check out Headbanger. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Give Me Chocolate is a good one.
Yep.
So this is a bunch of little Japanese girls.
No, it's just 3 Japanese girls, and then a killer band that look like ghouls. Yep.
And they're Lolitas. And so I don't know. I watched one where it was a series of their concert, and I don't know what the fuck happened, but I legit after a while was like, I'm a little bit uncomfortable because it started getting so fucking dark. Like they had a statue that was bathed in red light constantly, and like they came out all in hoods and shit, and they were bathed.
They lean into that Japanese ghost mythology. Like they lean heavily into that shit. It's cool.
I don't know how comfortable I am watching this.
I'll be honest. I went into it. I was like, all right, what is this fucking silly shit? And then I listened to it. I was like, that's actually not bad. You know?
Yeah. I was okay with that. I was
Credit where credit's due, you know? I was
Right?
like, damn, that band can fucking play.
Yeah, the band behind it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting when it comes to music, because different comics that I'm I catch myself listening to different stuff for the comic.
Yes,
you got to
I
get
have
yourself
specific
into the visual
playlists
zone.
for
Yeah,
different stories. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead, Don.
I think like Monster MD was more punk rock, and Lady Alchemy was like trippy, like dream '80s pop. Like magic, weird, like weird, but like ethereal. Oh yeah, synthwave too. Yeah, I think I listened to Depeche Mode. You know, like I kind of the Godfathers. I listened to all this stuff, and it gets you in the world that you're trying to create. You could visually start seeing it, feeling the colors, you know, what have you. It's cool.
Well, and so if we're going to go back to non-musical influences, because it's something I didn't actually mention, one of the things I've been reading recently because of what I want to write. So I really like Poe, and I like how they did his anthology collections and stuff, where they basically took his poetry, his short stories, and things like that, and they kind of compiled them all together. They had, in some of them, you can have people who illustrated based on what feeling or mood that kind of gave them. So there's a couple of pictures inserted in certain anthologies of his. I thought that was really, really cool. But then there's also, recently I've been reading a lot of Junji Ito, because Ito is super fucked up.
That's what you were telling me, yeah.
You haven't read any Ito. You want something that's going to like mess with your mind, your perception of reality, and just leave you overall very unsettled. Junji Ito is very, very good at that. And the way that he tells things through the manga visual medium, and kind of the way that stories progress and stuff, it's like incredibly simple, but it's very, very effective. And, you know, I've been reading, like I've got Tomie. I haven't moved very far in it because it's really fucked up, and I read it before bed, and then I had really bad nightmares for a while. But looking at just kind of like some of the art will be really, really beautiful, and it's really striking. But when you actually read and you figure out what this is so fucking evil when you see it. It doesn't.
What's that one called?
This one is Tomie.
Tomie. I read Spiral into Terror, and that one was awesome.
Yeah, so Spiral was is a really popular one. Spiral into Terror is the one that Hot Topic and Spencer's Gifts have picked up on and started putting all of that imagery on T-shirts. Which
Hot Topic is still around?
Yeah.
It is a shell of what it used to be, but
it's still
the dream of every goth girl in high school. Do you want to vote there?
Yeah. No, I remember when you used to actually be able to get, you know, real band shirts there, and then I saw that they were selling like, you know, Lil Wayne T-shirts, and I was like, yeah, I'm out.
It's weird. That
Like,
it's
it's
still
just-
around.
They sell comics there too, didn't they?
For a little bit, They sold all
slave
kinds
labor
of like,
graphics.
yes, definitely. Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and
Yeah. Really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lenore and all that stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of
Well,
like
and
that.
so,
Roman Dirge shit.
So looking at some of Junji Ito and how he tells stories, if you've ever seen, there's an anime series that does the short stories of Ito, and they were done in like 15-20 minute ish little anime clips essentially, and they all kind of wove together a little bit, but the way that they animated those stories fit so perfectly with how unsettling his storytelling is. He loves body horror, so he loves taking normal human beings and like fucking them up. Tomie gets hacked to death and then walks in through the front door of her classroom in the first like 10 pages of the book. So they just talked about how she was hacked to death mercilessly in the woods, and then she walks in and says, "Hi, everybody," and everyone's like, "What the fuck just happened? Like, how are you living?" saw pieces of you in the forest. So yeah, just
sounds like my kind of party.
Exactly. And then I just recently bought No Longer Human. So that's another one that somebody that I follow that loves horror, loves super fucked up shit, and is a little bit twisted. She read it and she was like, I genuinely don't know how I feel after this. She's like, normally I can put words to it. She's like, I don't know how I feel at all. I'm kind of unsettled. I don't feel right. I feel like something has like gone awry. And the fact that somebody was able to write and illustrate that, I thought was really, really interesting. And that's something that when I try to go into some of my nightmares, because nightmares don't usually make sense, especially mine. And so when I'm trying to take my nightmares and turn it into like a short story, I look heavily at Ito, because he makes things that don't make sense, that they make sense.
Right. That's really cool.
Super fun.
I'm gonna have to check this out.
Yeah. All of the books are they're big. Like, you want to kill a cockroach with them, it'll be easy. But they're broken up. Like this, what I've gotten into, I think that's probably 3 stories. So I've got another, like, I don't know, 10 or something to go. But they're very interesting, and it's really kind of intriguing the way that he goes through and tells these stories. What you got there, Luke?
This is the manga of At the Mountains of Madness, published by Dark Horse. Like, this book is insane. I mean, I've read Mountains of Madness before, but you know, they do these little interspersed, like, you know, almost painted looking pages. What you were talking about just made me think of this. You know?
It's cool.
But if you get a chance to pick this up, it's gorgeously illustrated. You know, 2 neat little volumes, which I've got upside down. Anyway, I can't book right now apparently, but definitely worth checking out.
Cool.
Leg Kick actually had a pretty interesting question. It says, is there any television series that influence you?
Berserk.
Berserk is a good one.
Berserk.
I've
never seen Berserk.
I love Berserk. The manga really influences me.
Yeah, the manga.
For television, when I was a kid, Robotech hit, and that blew my mind. Like,
very good.
Was a big influence. He-Man, Thundercats, Silverhawks, like classic '80s beauty and like heroes and really good designs, like and beautiful animation. At least, you know, we started having like a Japanese studio do our stuff for a bit there and did these like hyper realistic stuff that was just cool as hell.
Right.
Cool music, synths that were taken over. The designs were all hip and just kind of fun for the era. So yeah, what else? I can't think of anything else in terms of TV show like I have to do that, but I'm sure I'll think of something. A lot of anime though.
Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah.
Twin Peaks, amazingly good. Yeah.
As far as sci-fi goes, Farscape. Like, I absolutely love that show. I love like the creature design. I love the story. You know, like the whole living ship aspect of it. I thought was neat. I mean, maybe it just hit me at the right time when I was in high school. But I loved that show, and that I wanted to do sci-fi kind of like that, because I also love Jim Henson stuff. You know, and Jim Henson doing sci-fi. Come the fuck on! Why am I'm there? You know.
Right.
Yeah, that's sweet. Sweet combo.
Nobody else familiar with Farscape?
I'm sure Cyborg, my co-host here, would be all over this conversation. And I know, like, Sai and I have talked a lot about kind of influences and stuff. I know that one of their big influences has been the Battlestar Galactica kind of series and stuff like that, where you have these kind of, you know, these crazy worlds and everything's, you know, sci-fi, but it's also kind of gritty. It's not, everything doesn't have to be like shiny and polished and clean, and like things are real and gritty and down and dirty, and that's something that sci seems to kind of gravitate to a lot. There's a laundry list of sci-fi shows that I have agreed to watch with sci that I had to, and I said okay.
Chubb?
For some reason, this all made me think back to I never watched it since the 80s, but the old Beauty and the Beast with Rob Perlman.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I cannot
That
see
was-
him as not a cat now because of that.
Yeah, the lip and all that stuff. Yeah, he's always a monster. He's always a monster character. But that I want to rewatch. I hope I'm not, I hope it isn't a crippling disappointment to me, though. I don't know how it's held up at all. But I remember that holds a place for me. We'll see. I'll retrace my steps.
You're so punk now, dude, and that show's so romantic. I don't know, man. This is gonna be interesting. Sure.
And these things are not mutually exclusive. You can be a romantic punk.
Yeah, you can.
Why the fuck not?
Sure. I mean, I am.
They're living in the drain. They're living in the drain. I mean, I don't know what New York sewers really look like, but I'm sure. But it's really funny. So he's like this mutant lion, dressed up in some sort of dune outfit, trudging on turds through Manhattan. There must be some comedy value in there if I can't get past the drama.
Yeah. Hopefully something. I mean, yeah, it's worth checking out, Had an influence, too.
So,
Neverwhere. Neverwhere was
mentioned
pretty
Twilight Zone.
Oh, yeah.
I prefer Outer Limits to Twilight Zone.
Really? I didn't like Outer Limits.
Really?
I like Outer Limits. I like them both.
I'm okay with Outer Limits, but I like Twilight Zone better.
See, I always felt that Outer Limits would do a little bit more of like the straight like kind of horror, and Twilight Zone's like more like, ooh, the horror is kind of like behind a veil, and you have to kind of think about the horror, if that makes sense.
That's why I like
the Outer Limits was more like kind of in your face with it.
So and I think that so for me, when you're writing horror, I think something that's a hell of a lot more scary is the implication that there is something, especially if it's something that you don't understand but that is never fully explained.
Because the essence of horror, actually.
Yeah, well, because what your imagination is going to create versus what a studio or a movie production company can actually show you. What your imagination can create is always significantly worse than anything being shown to you directly.
Absolutely.
Well, if you could name it, Shae, it wouldn't be a monster.
What was that?
If you could name it, it wouldn't be a monster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of horror, is ambiguity.
Yeah.
But not just horror, but Alfred Hitchcock, the old 1960s Hitchcock Presents, they were redone in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was a much harder, sort of more gritty version of those same stories. And I don't think it's ever been collected in a box set or anything. But that was good. That was really good, dark noir sort of stuff.
I remember watching those, man.
The three that come to mind for me, someone mentioned it already in the chat, but Tales from the Crypt was a big one because I've always been to anthology. I like that format.
Oh yeah,
sure. Telling a story in 30 minutes or less. Also, they were just expertly crafted little movies by amazing directors and writers at the time. And the second one, and somebody already kind of said it because I think it's Twin Peaks with horror, which is the X-Files. That to me is what X-Files is. It's essentially Twin Peaks. It's got that same otherworldliness, weirdness to it, but it's grafted onto different genres of horror that they're doing on a weekly basis. And they're using the weirdness of Twin Peaks to kind of go through it. And it has the what's his name? David Duchovny connection to Twin Peaks as well. And I'd say the last one, he was Dennis, right? In Twin Peaks, the transvestite that no one ever comments on. They go, "Hey Dennis, how you doing?" Yeah, I'm fine. And no one ever cares that he's wearing a dress.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the third one would be the first season of True Detective, which I thought was extremely formidable. I was blown away by that. I wasn't expecting that when I saw it.
I agree with that. I forgot about that. That one was amazing. Yeah.
Because I very rarely ever meet. I'm not the kind of guy who watches a show or a movie and goes, "Oh, I'm like that character." But I've never seen a show that embodied a character that I relate to in the most negative of ways, like True Detective, which is like the Rust. Whoever plays Rust, what's his name?
Rust Cole, Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, I'm like, this is pretty much every negative attribute about him I related to. wearing people down, people getting annoyed with you, that you're kind of rigid in certain things and just people can't get around that. It makes you sort of incongruous with people. And I was like, yeah, this is a little bit too close to home.
I was going to say it's just your life. So somebody just followed you around and wrote what your interactions were with people.
A tendency towards despairing and kind of a funny nihilism sometimes.
Seriously, just sounds like you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a, like I said, none of the good things, his intelligence or anything like that. It was mostly like, wow, there's a lot of badness being reflected back at me because I relate to this guy in a negative way.
Yeah. Hey, Odin, how you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thanks
Anyway, so about Achilles and Ajax. So what were you guys saying about those two characters?
Oh, I've been watching. You can't trick me. I'm not. I told everybody in the discussion that I am steering clear of mythology. I love it, but I talk way too much. I'll get completely off track. But I do know that we're talking about shows that inspire us right now, and I actually got one right in front of me. So this one has been something that I've loved since I was a kid. One of those things that my dad would, whenever he'd get home late from work, he'd pull me out of my bed at like midnight and we'd go watch Mickey Mouse Hour and we'd watch the Guy Williams Zorro.
Oh,
black and white. And so like that, like stuff like that are things that I've watched that I'd love to do, like nice little swashbuckling things. I grew up a big fan of Alexandre Dumas, so stuff like the Three Musketeers and Count of Monte Cristo are all things that like I'd love to tackle. Oh, fantastic!
I got my Three Musketeers. Three Musketeers here, man. This is an old one.
Yeah, that's pretty too.
Yeah, this was a good find.
And then another show that's actually more recent that I just have absolutely fallen in love with, and if I could ever do something like it, is DC's Doom Patrol. Absolutely
weird,
fantastic.
super. Yeah.
And they released the first 3 episodes of that second season here the other day, and
Craig storyboards that one, by the way.
Yeah, he did, and that was what I was about to say. Kudos to Dan on that, because this show is exceptional. And the second season blew me away even more than the first did, and it's only been 3 episodes, and I'm complete. My jaw hit the floor within those first 3, and if I ever had a chance to do anything like Doom Patrol, I'd probably lose my mind. It's something that I think has inspired me to try and push my boundaries as a writer. It's a very different thing than what I would normally write. But it's so creative. And then Will, you already said True Detective season 1, so I'm not gonna retread that territory,
but maybe you can go into a positive direction with it, because mine was more of a negative reaction.
I liked True Detective because I felt that for me, it shows the ugly side of that world. Everybody has all these procedural crime TV shows, and where the detectives and everyone are like these white collar guys that are just great people, and there's nothing wrong going on in their lives outside of like maybe an occasional one of their people coming and going after them and their loved ones. Like that's like the extent of it. But like seeing people like Matthew McConaughey's Russ or Woody Harrelson. I'm blanking on what Woody Harrelson's character is. Marty, yeah. Seeing these guys that are various shades of gray, and they're the heroes of the story because they're tracking the lesser evil, but they're far from great themselves. I felt was a very human approach to it, and that's what I really loved about it. It's this very, very it's something that I like personally playing with, where it's like this is the hero. This is the hero of our tale, but the hero is the lesser evil of all of these. Kind of like, you know, Berserk has been thrown around a lot in this, I've noticed, and that's one of the reasons why I love Guts. His Guts is a horrible person, but he's less horrible than the bad guy of the series, and that's why you root for him.
Interesting. I don't know. I like Guts, but I just like horrible people. I keep bringing Will on the show.
Well, but I don't know if I agree with you, Odin, about the shades of gray thing. What I like about True Detective is how kind of counter enlightenment it is, where there is good and there is evil, and it does not deviate from that. And Rust may be, you know, he may be a flawed guy, but what makes him get in trouble most of the time and what makes him unable to fit into these hierarchies is a very strict moral compass. He may have a problem with God. He may have a lot of anger at God, but he doesn't ever say he disbelieves in it.
No, I honestly wasn't really gearing that more towards Russ. I was gearing that more towards Marty, who is kind of a dirtbag.
Yeah, he's a dirtbag with his family. He's a philanderer. Yeah. But what I also like about it is how kind of biblical it is, because usually God likes to utilize very imperfect instruments. He doesn't seem to like Charlie Churches at all. He doesn't like ass kissers, as I call them, holy ass kissers. He likes people like Marty, and he likes people like Rust. And that's what I liked about it, was using these two guys to go after genuine evil. You know, that's what I thought was really fresh about it, was we're used to the Enlightenment bullshit of, you know, there's shades of gray and everybody's bad, and it's all relative, and you know, that's not an eternal story. And he says at the end of the story, it's the oldest story ever told, light versus dark.
Yeah.
And he says,
and that's fair.
About the stars too, like all that used to be just black, but now look at all these stars.
Right. And you know, he says, I think dark's winning, but you know, dawn's coming, or something like that. I can't remember that great monologue at the end where he talks about it always makes me tear up, is that last monologue where he's talking about that feeling he has of his father and his daughter, and he could kind of feel them in a substance, and he's kind of fading away, and then he comes back. I mean, I think it's such a beautiful speech, and it just gets me every time I listen to it. I love that speech. Such a wonderful. You could tell, what's his name, Nick Pizzoletto, that you know he was putting his heart into that speech, because you don't write that. That's like a Tears and Rain kind of speech, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's my most favorite speech in any movie I've ever seen. But yeah.
You know, where that's coming from somewhere. It's not coming from just a guy going, shit, what do I write here? You know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You got to tap into those heartful moments, man. Those are the type of artists that influence me. If they can, I'll ask myself how they did it, you know, and it could be any kind of artist and any kind of medium, but they'll know how to hit at you, man. Eric Powell does The Goon. And I mean, it's just kind of a joking, violent, like just awesome comic, but it's got kind of an old school flair. It's got, you know, a guy punching zombies, but then he did Chinatown, and he had the goon fall in love, and he had him lose a woman he loved. And it was like, he went nuts. And I was like, oh my God, like you're making me, this is like a really heartfelt story. I feel like this really happened to Eric Powell. You know, he's like letting us see inside for once instead of just punching the zombies. And like I want to write like that for every book. You know what I mean? Like I want to get raw and bare and honest about what I'm dealing with for everything I write. So like there's a lot of me in there. So yeah, you'll find it in unexpected places, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting to find it there when I saw that series, and just why it blindsided me, because I'm used to most TV sucking. I think all of our expectations are so low with modern television and movies that when something's good, it really is good.
Yeah.
You know, nothing like going to something with expectations low and being blown away. It's sort of like that happened to me. I remember back in the day with Dark City, where I went into going, okay, this is going to be garbage, and then I'm like, whoa, this is a great fucking movie.
People were really hard on that movie too.
Because it just looked. I thought the trailers are bad. You know.
Yeah, it was really good. It was Prose, wasn't it? The same guy who directed the Crow.
Right. And I didn't expect, and that was a film where I didn't expect it to be what it was about.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, what's this emo kind of good goth thing? And then you go in there and you're like, whoa, it's this. You know, this is amazing.
A perfect example of how bad marketing can ruin a film. I feel like that's happened with a lot of, you know, Adam Sandler has a lot of these darker comedies that were marketed as slapstick kind of deals. Like I remember,
Click was a pretty dark movie.
Yeah, like I remember, like Click, as you said, Click. When the advertisements for that came out, it was like, oh, let's focus on like the 6 really funny slapsticky scenes from this that feel like classic Adam Sandler, and then you go in there and you just get kicked in the nuts emotionally over and over. And over.
Kind of kicks you in the nuts a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only like 2 straight comedies, which is like what, Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore, like his real slapstick ones.
Yeah, I would say Little Nicky as well.
Little Nicky is very slapstick.
Nicky.
You know, pine cones of people's, or you know.
Yeah.
I like Stat Zero. BBC Dracula inspired me to not write that way.
Is that the Netflix one?
Yeah,
That was terrible. That was garbage movie.
Well, what really made me upset was it was done by the guys who did Sherlock, and I really liked Sherlock, and so I was expecting big things from Dracula.
The nun that's interrogating Jonathan. She's like, Jonathan Harker, did you have sexual?
I didn't even make it that far. I'm not even going to lie to you, man. I didn't even make it that far. I made it maybe like 10, 15 minutes into the first episode. I was like, this is wrong.
Somebody says that in the show? Like, did you have sex with this guy? Like, somebody says that?
I just said the line. She said, did you have sexual intercourse with Count Dracula? And it's like, dun, 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 dun. And Jonathan Harker's like all drained and like bony and like, ugh. It sucked. And then the nun admits to being like a little gay, and then the other nun next to her admits to being a little, like, everyone was gay. The whole show, everyone was gay, and just like, kind of like,
well, at least they're going with
I'm like, if you are gay back in that era, you're not just like, yeah, cool.
At least they're going with the subtext of vampires.
Yeah, but Victorian era, everybody was like kind of closeted. Everyone knew it was going on, but nobody acknowledged it. I mean, just look at Oscar.
After a while, it's not something you talk about, or you'd be sent to some sort of workhouse.
If there's any book that relies on ambiguity, which is like the center of that book, it's Dracula, which is like, I don't want to admit that I might have had sexual intercourse with those 3 women and got syphilis in the castle, you know, and brought it back to my wife and her friend. You know, we don't want to say what happened. So I just say in my diary, I passed out and I don't remember what happened. You know, because that's what's kind of part of Dracula is all this like ambiguity of like, what happened in that castle, Harker? I don't know. It's in my diary. I fell asleep.
Yeah.
And if I fell asleep, it didn't happen. Yeah, but we've got syphilis now.
Yeah.
A lot of hickeys.
Excuse me, we've got vampire disease, but it's syphilis. It's be real here. Layer of the white worm. Come on, guys.
Ooh, that's syphilis if I ever saw it.
I want somebody to go back and make a Dracula movie or a TV series that actually goes right back to the actual source of the inspiration for vampirism, the actual folklore, just the really base sort of decomposition of corpses, and because all the things that inspired people to think that the dead came back. If somebody could almost create something more psychological about just people's fear of death itself, that would be great. Just take all the sparkly vampire shit away, stop making them attractive, make them actual corpses, make it all about mortality again. And refresh all that. I would love that.
Yeah, I got tricked into watching Twilight.
Well, no, you did not.
No, I did.
Twilight.
1,000%. No, 1,000%.
Isn't Twilight basically 2 gay guys fighting over an autistic girl in the woods?
Yes.
Is that pretty much the plot?
Explain a plot badly. Will is a cop.
but isn't that what it seems like it?
No, that's essentially what. So I ended up getting tricked into the first one because I hadn't watched it. I was like, fucking vampires glitter. I'm out. Like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So they stand in the sun, and it's like they went to the strip club. Like, I'm 1,000% done. I'm not playing this game.
They went to the strip club.
And I had a friend who was like, it's actually really good.
Except the bad perfume doesn't get on you.
Yeah, and so this this friend had told me it's actually a good story, and I went, I will watch it because you recommended it. I paused that movie at a certain point because there is a line that makes no fucking sense. And I was so outraged that this fucking line existed in this movie. He stands and he glitters in the sun, and I was like, I don't even understand. Like, okay, whatever. This is fucking gay. This is dumb. And then he's taking her up. He climbs up a tree, and she's like holding onto his back or something, and they're looking out over the forest, and she just is kind of like, oh, and he just looks at her and he goes, hold on tight, spider monkey. And I fucking paused the movie, and I was like, did I miss something? Did they go to the zoo at some point and she like particularly loved spider monkeys and that's where this came from? Because there is no way any actual fucking girl is going to think that is a term of endearment from her boyfriend if he calls her a spider monkey.
I'll try it out.
Isn't she kind of like retarded though?
She's
She was sad and didn't have friends. That's what it boiled down to.
One of the greatest videos I've ever seen about Twilight. I'm blanking on who did it, but they were like, you know what would have made Twilight a great thing is if they made Bella the villain. If they made this like horrible, obnoxious girl that is just emotionally manipulative, the villain of the story, it would have been great. They could have actually made that salvageable.
Like if she was trying to infiltrate the family so she could pit these two like warring clans of other beasts together, and then they would kill each other off, and then she'd be like, "Hey, congratulations! Like you're welcome, humanity."
She's actually the greatest monster hunter the world's ever seen.
Yeah, no, that's not it at all. She just wants to get boned, but she can't tell if she wants to get boned by a dog or a dead guy.
Holy shit! Okay,
who's getting boned by dead guys?
I have a theory about writers. I think we all have a vampire story, like in the back of our heads or like on a file folder on a computer somewhere. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it. I wrote a vampire script. It's kind of a what if Bonnie and Clyde were vampires and like had to rob banks. They had to go rob the first blood bank in Chicago together so they could get away with a big stash and live happily ever after. Yeah, that was mine.
I love that they're robbing a blood bank.
Yeah, they rob a blood bank, and like they're already bank robbers, and it's really hard to kill them, so they can take bullets, but like they got to stay kind of out of the sun, so they wear the hats, and she wears like the old school 1930s like shades. Like it's really cool. They wear a lot of black, and maybe like goggles even, but like they got to kind of keep the sun out a bit. And they kind of fall in love after trying to rob the same bank and blowing each other away. And it's like this bloody fucking battle. Like just two people blowing each other away with shotguns and stuff. But like they fall in love. They go to their detective friend Harvey for some info. And he's like a werewolf who's really depressed. He's lost everything because of his werewolfism. He's trying to kill himself, but he keeps coming back. He doesn't know how to do himself in yet. So like Harvey helps them out. But yeah, like it was fun. It was like this cool learning experience in college. I had to do it for a class. You write a full screenplay by the time it's over. So it's called the Still Alive Blues.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that because they're not trying to make you're not trying to make the werewolf into some sort of bloody hero like Anne Rice does, and like they did with Twilight. From what I can see, that it takes away from the core characteristic of the character. It's a torture. It's a madman essentially, or somebody who does terrible things and then can't live with what they did. You know, the classic Lon Chaney sort of setup. So I like that. Yeah, you take the actual character of the beast and just and do something with it, not changing into something fucking completely different, like crime fighting fucking werewolf.
Speaking of Vaughn, speaking of 80s and vampires, do you remember a movie called Near Dark?
That's my favorite vampire movie.
That movie's so awesome. Yeah,
that movie's great.
It's her second movie. Yeah,
they don't even say the word vampire in that movie.
And Bill Paxton is amazing in it.
Yeah,
he's got that fame. You know, remember that Glenn Fabry cover for Preacher? You guys remember that number 2? Where did he steal that one from?
Yeah.
You remember that famous shot of Bill Paxton where he's doing that smile and he's putting on the glasses?
Yeah. Finger looking good.
Yeah, shit kicker heaven.
Yeah.
That's such a good movie.
Yeah, man. If anyone, it's one of those movies that was lost for a while that you couldn't really see, and it kind of came back with DVD. I think they found the negative in a garage somewhere.
Oh wow!
But it was one of those almost lost movies.
It's kind of paired with. It's paired with the Lost Boys, and then a lot of people are saying they like the Lost Boys more or whatever. And
Came out
then
the same
Near
year.
Dark is kind of the hipster one, yeah. And
Yeah, it came out the same exact year, and it got knocked off by Lost Boys.
Yeah, that was the problem. It was released just too closely to Lost Boys.
Yeah, I mean, it's got Lance Henriksen in it. It's got Jeanette Goldstein in it. Adrian Pastar, I think, is also in it. Shot by the same guy who shot Terminator 1 and 2. So it's got Beautiful Nights. Because that guy could shoot nights if you saw Terminator 1. You know, Adam, what's his name? Goldsmith? I can't remember his name. Adam Green or Greenblatt, I think is his name. Adam Greenblatt, I think. He's Polish cinematographer.
hey, Shae, I got to go eat a little dinner. I'm getting kind of hungry, so I'm going to say goodbye to everyone.
Good night, Narwhal.
Yeah, everyone, thanks for hanging out. Vaughn, good seeing you, and we'll hang out again.
Good seeing you.
Yeah.
The guy who co-wrote Near Dark was Eric Red, and he wrote another great script you guys have probably seen, The Hitcher.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is a big influence on me. I really love The Hitcher. I don't know if you guys have watched it.
Yeah, many times.
He works very prominently in horror. He did Body Parts. He did. Speaking of werewolves, he did Bad Moon.
Oh, Bad Moon, yeah.
Yep, that's Eric Red. He wrote and directed that.
He does cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Where the guy moves in with his sister because he's thinking that being near his family will cure him of his lycanthropy.
I like that scene when he's like slowly turning into the wolf in the woods, and he's like, his personality changes with the transformation.
Right.
That's pretty.
And
cool.
he chains himself to the tree, and he's like scratching it. And the dog is the only one that knows, and the dog is the hero, but it can't speak, and because it can't tell anybody what it's seen. Yeah. So I thought that was cool that the dog is the kind of only creature that knows what's going on, but he can't tell anyone.
Yeah, that was cool.
He's the audience, basically.
Yeah, you should see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Luke's back.
And his name is Thor.
I had to beat the technology into submission. We got this unique USB-C dongle thing that turns my phone into like a computer, but I couldn't hear anybody. I couldn't communicate. So
El Gargoyle, I agree. If you know the beginning of that film, it opens with a sex scene, and the woman is quite well endowed.
And now I'm gonna go watch. Like
going back to True Detective, when you have what's her name, Dodario. What's her first name?
Double Derio. I don't know.
Oh man, but she's pretty damn gorgeous. If I remember correctly, Woody Harrelson had quite a stable in that show.
He was talking amongst yourself. I'll be right back.
Okay, so what about Shae? Do you hate? Let's name 6 things.
Hey,
man, you changed it to Shae.
Talk.
Oh yeah, that is Mariel Hemingway. I forgot that she's in that film. What's the name?
Bad Moon.
Yeah, she had a small career. She was in that movie with John Candy.
Delirious.
Delirious, where he speaking of writing, he writes himself in and gives himself powers.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's the one where he's like he's a hack writer. He's a hack like soap opera writer, and he gets stuck in his own soap opera, and he wants to kill himself because he hates his own writing.
That sounds an awful lot like what was it, Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell? Except somebody he's being written about. Yeah, which oddly enough, that is the only Will Ferrell movie I like aside from Night at the Roxbury.
Never could get in.
I find him so annoying.
Brothers. I like Big Brothers. Other than that,
dude, he just came out with Eurovision on Netflix.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's actually kind of funny. It's stupid, but I always thought Eurovision was kind of funny, so I was like, all right, bring this shit on. It was funny. It was stupid, but I mean, it should be, right? It should be.
Right. Well, I mean, that's his stock and trade, so that's usually why I avoid his movies.
A lot of his comedy is just him saying exactly like what he's doing, just word for word. He's just like, I'm putting these down the front of my pants to make my dong look bigger. Like, that's it. Like, he just says what he's doing, and you're just like, okay, all right, dude.
That's not funny. Yeah.
I'm not used to it. But, okay.
I did watch Elf with my mom. That wasn't bad, But Jon Favreau's great.
I like the other guys a good deal. With him and
Mark Wahlberg.
They play off each other really well. They do a very good job. I remember they did to promote the film. They had like a weird thing where they had both of them doing insults at each other, and the whole goal was to try and get the other one laugh. And they were going at each other hard, but eventually Wahlberg broke. Like he couldn't do it anymore because Will Ferrell was just going freaking way over the top. But I think that they have good. I think Will Ferrell is good when you put him with somebody that plays off him well. But if you just have him as like the sole comedic talent, it's going to be dumb.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I can see that because when he was with Chris Kattan in Night at the Roxbury, I still find that funny. But
or like John C. Reilly in Step Brothers was fun.
It was funny.
Never saw that one.
He's got one of those faces. He doesn't have to really do much to laugh at him.
Yeah.
I just can look at that fucking face all day and laugh.
Mm-hmm.
There's just some. I mean, he's not like I don't know. I'm not a connoisseur, but he just got a face that I'm like, dude, you just have to sit there and I'll laugh.
You talking about John C. Reilly?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I could just look at that and go.
It kind of looks like a pug in human form.
Right. He's an ugly dude. He's got the comedic face.
He's got the big puffy cheeks, the scrunched up nose, and like the narrowed eyes.
I don't remember what it is, but on Adult Swim, it's Dr. something.
Oh yeah,
he is, and it's the cringiest shit in the face of the planet. Because basically he goes out and he is interviewing people, like actual people that actually are doing jobs and stuff, and he interviews them, but he interviews them as this doctor character that
I know exactly who you're talking.
Like the most autistic character I've ever seen in my life. Doesn't understand anything. Is really, really uncomfortable. Everything he does, and there's a whole lot of close-up shots of him just and they just zoom in on his face, and they hold it for way too long, and so everyone who watches gets really uncomfortable. That's and Becca says his doctor would never show an Adult Swim is lame, tries too hard in my opinion. I can absolutely see that viewpoint because it does try very, very hard. It is still super cringy. It's a matter of whether you think it's a good cringe or bad.
But that's what they're going for. They're going for that super cringe. Is the whole point.
I don't think I think at least 70% of what Adult Swim puts out is just to make you cringe. It's not for good entertainment. It's just
Adult
to
Swim still
turn your
exists?
stomach.
Yes, it does.
Do they still? It does. Do they still do cartoons, or is it all
It's
predominantly
cartoons. They have it's kind of a mixed bag. Adult Swim kind of became the home of what was essentially used to be on Toonami for a bit, and that's how they were kept alive. But I need to watch it. But they got a show done by the guy who did Samurai Jack called Primal. That's about a caveman seeking revenge against a pack of T-Rexes. And I need to see that. It looks freaking
Krakowski or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot. Well, those cocksuckers canceled Metalocalypse so they can, eat several bags of Richards.
I love that show.
Yeah, that was that was a misstep for sure. Metalocalypse was probably one of my favorite.
Yeah,
and it actually had good music.
Yeah.
Deathlock is good music.
Hey, Pickles. Yeah, dude. What? My voice is killing me.
Speaking of,
why don't you take 5?
Do any of you guys remember Liquid Television from MTV back in the day?
Fuck yes.
Do you remember
I've got the box set of Aeon Flux?
Aeon Flux and Beavis and Butthead and the Max and
the MTV Oddities bit. I watched the because that was my older brother's generation. I ended up getting to watch a lot of it because they had videotaped everything on VHS cassettes and hidden them down in the basement, and I found it. And so I watched. That was my first exposure to the Max, and then I went and read the books, which were absolutely fantastic. I love the Max a good deal. I heard some rumor about them trying to do a live action one and having Channing Tatum play the Max, and I went, all of that is wrong, and I hope it's not true.
Man, they want to throw Channing Tatum in everything. Ooh, let's make him the Max.
The first music videos I saw were on Beavis and Butthead, of them just bagging on them and ragging on them. I was like, who are these guys? I think the first Tool video I ever saw was on Beavis and Butthead.
Yes.
I think it was Prison Sex was a song.
I'm pretty sure that was my introduction to Guar.
Yep,
Butthead.
Because they were going crazy. They would go crazy every time Guar came on. And then Danzig was another one I first saw on there. God, it was like so many guys, so many very first people. Like I don't know, and all obscure shit too. They were playing on there as well.
Well, they'd find the most ridiculous shit that they could, and then put two dumbass stoners in front of it, and just be like, ready, go. And I swear what it was they had their entire crew sit around in like the writing room, and they were like, hey guys, what do you think of this video? People put it up, and they just put a record in the center of the room, and whatever those assholes said, half stoned.
What's hilarious about Beavis and Butthead is that they were aspiring stoners, but they couldn't access any of it, so they just were just dumb. They're like, we're gonna get stoned eventually, but this is how we are before we're stoned. Because remember, the whole series is them like trying to access something that's going to get them stoned.
Or get laid,
drunk or laid, like all the big three, because they're a bunch of dumb. They're two dumb high schoolers.
Did you see?
I enjoyed the movie.
Yes.
What?
So they rebooted it, and it was still glorious. There was one where they got they unintentionally got themselves into the army and wandered around and ended up finding a drone and blew up a whole bunch of shit. To include I think, the base that they were deployed at. They ended up blowing up their own base because they're like, no, fuck getting the bad guys. Let's go get these motherfuckers that are just sitting around here. So they started blowing up like their own base with their own drone. And immediately got kicked out of the. They had to flee to keep from being, arrested and charged as traitors.
I think one of the most hilarious ones is where they couldn't laugh all day, and you had Mr. Buzzcut coming in saying, they're gonna get sent away to the delinquent high school where get their ass kicked, and he's like, today we're gonna be talking about the penis and sexual intercourse, and they're like trying to dying laughing, and they can't, and they're like literally like having seizures because they can't laugh.
Yeah.
And we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about masturbation.
So,
man.
Total aside, but when you were in health class and they talked about like
you got to give you the speech about being mature.
We didn't get that. What we got, it was our assistant volleyball coach who taught, and she's a big, and when I say big, I don't mean fat. I mean just like if you took a regular sized woman and you just made her bigger, like that was Margot. Margot was her name. So she stood up in front of the class and she goes, "All right, guys. So we've hit the part of health class where we're going to be talking about your bodies."
That's true.
And everyone's instantly like getting ready to giggle. And she goes, and for this exact reason, you are going to scream penis and vagina until it isn't funny anymore.
Oh.
And so you would be walking in the hallway and you just hear
penis
over and over again. And by the end of it, people were like so sick of this. So somebody would stand up in front and they'd be like, okay, I need you to read out this sentence. And he'd be like, so the man takes his penis and like everybody was just kind of like so not funny anymore. And so like it was hilarious because anyone around would be like, oh, you're a penis head. And they'd be like, that
again, Shae, a Beavis and Butthead joke, but they always go hole.
It was just cool. It was really funny because I remember I was walking with the principal down the hall at one point I had to deliver a message. And so he was taking me to where Margot's class was. And as we're walking down, you just hear vagina, and he goes, "Well, Margot's in class." And I was just like, I'm like, what am I walking into? And so I like walk into the classroom, and I was like, ma'am, I had a note from Coach, and she's like, oh, okay, thank you. You've been in this class before, and I was like, don't make me do it. And she was like, she's like, this is how effective it is, and she's like, go ahead. And I was like, what, Margot, why? And she was like, go ahead. I was like, penis and vagina. And everybody in class was like, and I went, stop fucking laughing. It isn't funny. They were like, why? And I go, she will make me stand here until you stop laughing. And they were just like 5 minutes of penis and vagina, penis and vagina, penis and vagina. And finally they were just like, okay, this isn't fun
Sucked
anymore. I
all
was
the
like,
joy out of penis
thanks.
and vagina.
Exactly. I was like, dude,
all the
this
joy
is terrible thing.
out of penis and vagina.
Whatever, dude. I know tons of dick jokes. I could keep that class rolling.
Right? Dick and fart jokes in life.
That's right.
It got funny again, but it could only get funny after you passed that part of the class. And then you had a couple weeks away from Margot staring at you. Because like I said, she was a very large woman.
Oh, yeah.
And she would just stare at you and she'd be like, again. And just have this like.
Just say penis to me all day.
That's really what she was looking for.
You weren't even into dick, Margot.
She just
weren't
needed
into
that
this.
sweet
This is
serenade.
where she gets it out. She just gets it out for one day of the year. This is it.
Barely.
Did you guys get to go early? Did you go early to the boys for your sex ed? Because dude, we got free recess while the girls got to watch a video.
No,
and then the next year they were like, finally, you've matured enough. You've caught up with the girls. You can watch a video while they have recess.
They split us in, I want to say it was 6th grade. They split us up, the boys and the girls, and they were like, don't talk to the boys about what we're going to tell you. And then they gave everybody pads and tampons. And then the boys, they said, don't talk to the girls about what we're going to tell you. And then they gave them all condoms. So of course the boys blew up the condoms and the girls stuck maxi pads on all the boys' backpacks because you gave me a giant sticker. And the boys got slimy balloons. So it was terrible. It was they stopped doing it after a while because they realized in 6th grade you're not mature enough to handle these kinds of things.
Right.
But then when I hit junior high and high school, it stayed mixed. And
high school? Wait, you were doing this in grade school?
In sixth grade was the first time.
Because you're like, I went to junior high. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, wait a minute. Rewind. In 6th grade, they gathered us all in the gym and then they split us boys and girls. And they started talking to the girls about their changing bodies, and then we got to go for light refreshments in the library, and there was literally a bowl of tampons, and they were like, "Everyone take one," and I was like, "The fuck is that?"
That's not a light refreshment.
They were like, "You're going to need it one day." I was like, "The hell I am! I ain't using that shit."
I mean, I used to give gallons of blood to get out of class when they do the blood drives because you didn't have to go to class, and they would pamper you after giving blood. So you're like, cool, and you go and give a couple pints, have some, ginger ale or whatever they give you.
Ginger ale, the cookies. Yeah.
And you're like, cool. They're like, shit, I'll do this every time. I don't care.
Yeah, I remember because we all intermingled back in the library, and the boys would be like, "What did they tell you?" And I was like, "I'm not allowed to say." And I was like, "Why? What did they tell you?" And they go, "Well, they gave me this." And I went, "What's that?" And they go, "I can't tell you what that is, but I have to keep it in my wallet." I was like, "Okay."
Does anyone actually keep one in their wallet? Has anyone ever done that trope?
No, because it destroys them.
Exactly.
Every kid in the 6th grade did in my school, and then in junior high and high school, they went, "Do you know that ruins them?"
Yeah, man.
And then people were like,
always in the
"I
jacket
use that.
pocket.
What do you mean it ruins them?"
I always feel like a gentleman when it comes out of the jacket pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of
like
nice
Bond, James Bond.
Just I was trying on jackets today, and I checked the pockets in a condom.
I never have one. I just employ one of the 3 most common Mexican lies. The first of which is "I love you," 2 is "I'm leaving here," and then the 3rd is "just a tip."
Oh, God. Just the tip.
So no need for a condom.
Quick evacuation.
They know it's not just the tip.
I feel
Everybody
like,
knows.
shockingly, we have somehow crossed that line.
Oh yeah, sorry. Talk about influence again. So Edgar Allan Poe, you know.
Shae, I go 0 to 60. Either I'm very demure or and quiet, or I'm just like saying the most nasty shit I can think of.
Yeah.
No
No in
filter, no script.
Balls deep, no lube.
Exactly. That's how I like it.
Fucking.
You know, if you can screw a bucket of sand and just tear it apart, I'll do it. You know. So.
I kind of feel like, you know what, this always happens within the last like 10 minutes of the show.
Old.
Right?
I get delirious.
Well, we got to get it out while we can, right?
Shae,
Yeah.
I'm old.
You know.
I'm getting delirious. It's getting too late. It's like 9 o'clock, so it's my, you know.
I swear,
All right,
every time
Grandpa.
you say that, I want to punch you because I have work in the morning. I have to be up in less than 5 hours.
So we got to keep you up now.
Fuck you.
How do you go to sleep when you just drink a Nas?
Oh, it's fine.
That's the person that doesn't drink any energy drinks whatsoever.
No, but seriously, how do you guys do it? Like, I'm envious of you because if I drink one of those, I die.
Because my brain goes, oh, sleepy time now? Okay, and then I crash out. So I
What's the
literally
point of
don't fall
drinking it
asleep
then?
anywhere.
Those things, honestly, but there comes a point where it's late enough where it doesn't matter if you've had anything to drink like that. You're gonna fucking crash.
It's like the Bane like poison tanks you guys have on your back. It's like drunk.
Like, I don't do energy drinks because they make me feel sick like the entire next day. I don't like it.
You got a hangover?
No, not like a hangover. Just I feel gross. Like I genuinely feel like nauseous the entire day, and it's like it's not fun for me. But like I work 12-hour night shifts in security, and it doesn't matter at all. Once you hit around like 1 or 2 in the morning, you could have had a guy that had a fucking IV drip of coffee. They're gonna be hurting. Like it's just what it is. Your body's hard set. Is hard set from when you're like a kid. You know, this is when you're supposed to be sleeping, and so there comes a point where your body just starts to go, "Fuck you, stay awake." Fuck you, go to sleep. And then like you know, when I was in the military and we were out in the field doing platoon defenses, the only way that we stayed up was the MRE packs came with these little things of Tabasco hot sauce. And you use it essentially like an eyedropper, and it
that shit.
But it worked, right? It kept you awake.
Oh yeah, it did. It hurt, and it sucked, especially because you're looking through freaking night vision goggles, and everything's green, and your eyes are burning.
Yeah, you know, if you stay awake for 3 days straight, you will literally start to trip your balls off, right?
Yeah, like
I did that in college once while popping yellow jackets.
Yeah, luckily we never got to like that point. Most of your like field training and what have you, if you did like a platoon defense overnight, what would happen is the next day you'd be out. You wouldn't be doing any training. It'd be like a rest day, and you go forward. That's what it was supposed to be. But because it's the Army, some jackass has a great idea to be like, let's go do stuff. But
yeah, and you got the
See,
night
and this
vision.
is why I'm
like
not
a TV
Army.
screen in front of your eyes, and you're looking at that too. So screw that.
This is why I'm not Army. So while the Army's doing dumb shit like dropping Tabasco in their eyes, the Air Force is sitting in air-conditioned tents with cots.
yeah, I mean,
with cots or doing cot?
I mean, probably a little bit of both. But I mean, hey, whatever.
You get your bundles from Somalia. Come in, you guys got
on this note, I think this is a wonderful place for us to end the stream. I genuinely enjoyed having all of you guys on. You guys are phenomenal. You are always welcome back. We'll go around and let everybody kind of say what their projects are. So, Chubb, feel free.
Mary Boys is still in demand. If anybody wants a copy, if you haven't got a copy yet, that's still there. It's still available, and we ship straight out because everything's been printed. It's being fulfilled, so no waiting on that. And also, I'm doing a T-shirt, a traditionally screen printed T-shirt for Mary Boys. If anybody wants one, let me know, and yeah, we make it happen. I've placed orders for them now, so it's definitely going to be happening soon.
Awesome.
Yes. That T-shirt.
Told
looks
y'all
so
I need that
fucking
shirt.
badass, too. I'm so excited.
Cool.
Okay.
Vaughn knows I like t-shirts.
Yes,
Right?
sir. Good taste in them.
So like Chubb, Black Flag is now in demand. For the value of the book, you now get quite a value. You get the original #1 cover that's recolored by Matt Yackey. You get the Rob Willis poster. You get stickers. You get a whole other book, which is number 0.5, in addition to the new #1 48-page Perfect Bound book. So you get a lot for your money, and it's there in demand.
And there's also t-shirts and hats and
Yeah, but just for the initial
coins.
pledge, you get a lot of stuff.
There's all kinds of shit that you can add on to that. I got myself a hat and a t-shirt, and I'm very excited about it.
Great swag.
Sleepy Vaughn.
Yes, I'm sleepy.
Vaughn.
I got work tomorrow too. Thank you for having me on. It's always awesome to be on with you and all these cool people. I make Monster MD. You guys all know it. We're like less than like 7-8 pages away from being done with the colors and being done with the book. And then we're gonna ship her out. So yeah, hop on board.
Yeah.
Check out story
excited.
about the doctor to the local monsters. It's gonna be kick ass.
I can't wait. And then Vaughn also is the writer for Martina Marcoto's book, Lady Alchemy.
Lady Alchemy. That book's gonna kick ass. That's more and more art's coming in from Dario, and it's just looking amazing. The story's kicking into high gear now. People check out Lady Alchemy on Indiegogo. And Graveyard Shift 2 came out with a little story for me in it too. So
no shit.
I'm everywhere.
Waiting on that too.
I'm out there.
I literally I walk to my mailbox every day and I'm like, all right, what am I gonna get? What am I gonna get? Nothing. Fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'll get nothing, and then the next day it'll be like 3 or 4 books in my mailbox.
Yeah, that's what keeps happening.
Hello, Christmas. Yeah.
Right.
Good stuff.
It's insane. All right, Odin.
How's it going, guys? Elysian Fields is up on Indiegogo. We're in demand. The initial wave of backers will be getting some nice surprises in their mail here soon because the package of all the books comes in tomorrow. So I will start fulfilling the first wave. I know Shae's excited because she's in there. And so we have that coming in, and then we'll be getting a second shipment of books to finish up what we have printed for the hollow foil and the black and white cut and the floppy as well. So please get in there. We'll probably leave the campaign in demand probably to the end of the month if they let us. Well, not this month, but July. And yeah, thanks.
Sounds awesome. And Luke.
Check out the YouTube channel. Come sing with me. Come scream with me on the Sing Along of Doom on my channel. Also, I got more old interviews. I've been lazy. I will admit it. I've been lazy. I haven't done the editing that I need to do. I've got a Lady Death unboxing video that's coming up, and I've got lots of projects kicking around. Anyway, more fun stuff, old interviews, and screaming. Come hang out.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. And obviously you can find me at Gaslight on Twitter, my YouTube channel that you guys are currently hanging out in. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe on your way out. We are getting so close to hitting that 1,000. We're getting really close to hitting our 4,000 watch hours. And you guys are the reason that I do this, because this is really entertaining for me. I really enjoy being able to hang out with everybody, talk some writing, go over some really awesome campaigns, and do some ridiculous cosplay. And we're gonna keep growing. We're gonna keep on building this channel up, and hopefully one day I can quit my shitty job cleaning and do this instead, and it'll be way better because I will have all the time in the world for you guys. So thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you so much to my panel. You guys are fucking superstars and you make this so much fun. Thanks everyone in the chat. You guys are brilliant, and we will catch you all next time. See you later.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.